let's bring Jeff Kerr in, CBS Sports, 97.3, ESPN.com, covers the Eagles, and the Eagles are back at camp. We got a lot of Eagles news today, including an injury with Devonta Smith. We'll get to that in just a second. But 5 to 12 weeks, Jeff Kerr. So what's the what is the possibility now with that trade with the Eagles? How has that been affected?
Well, I'll tell you what. First off, Mike, what is PennDOT performing the surgery on this guy? 5 to 12 weeks?
Dr. Nick Rivera, I think, will be in there, right, from The Simpsons.
Exactly. It's not good for the Eagles in terms of their draft compensation. I mean, I guess, you got to praise Howie Roseman for getting a second-round pick for a guy who may not play till November. You got to look at it that way. I'm trying to look at the positive here, but Carson Wentz has to play 70% of the snaps, or the Colts have to make the playoffs in order for them to get a first-round pick out of this. And if he don't come back till week 7, week 8, he's not playing 70% of the snaps. Now, if he comes back in week 5, there's a chance, but I'm not banking on it. I think it's going to be a second-round pick, which is fine. It's, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, you got a second-round pick for a guy that obviously you had to move on from. I don't think anybody should be all up in arms about that situation. Now, Devonta Smith going to be 2 to 3 weeks. This is a little bit – it's not like you're mad. It's just so disheartening, the fact that your second year in a row, your first-round wide receiver is going to miss time possibly. I don't think he's going to miss the start of the season, but how this will affect his role with this team.
Now, the Eagles, I will say this, the Eagles have downplayed this a lot, and which I think is good, because on Saturday, he did leave practice, but he came back, he did individual drills and was with his team. Usually, they go to the infamous blue tent, and then they go in the locker room. Well, that didn't happen, so I feel like the Eagles are erring on the side of caution here, Mike. I don't think this is a big deal. I don't think he was going to play that much in the preseason anyway, so that's, here or there, but yeah, you're right. The whole thing, it's disheartening, honestly. You're absolutely right about that.
That's what I was going to ask. What is the plan? I don't know that the teams have kind of discussed this, but are we hearing anything? There's only 3 preseason games instead of 4. We've seen less and less teams utilize these preseason games. How teams are going to, how much should we anticipate seeing him play in the preseason anyway?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I think he would have played a bit. I don't think, the first preseason game, I think we would have saw him out there a couple series or so. I don't think it would have been terrible. It would have been a lot fewer than everybody expected, because this is their number 1 wide receiver. Let's not kid ourselves here. This is the guy. So I'm looking at it as, okay, where do we go from here now? The second preseason game, he probably would have played a half with the first team. But overall, I don't think he was going to play much just because of his status on the depth chart. I think we need to see more of John Hightower, Wes Watkins, Travis Fulgham, Greg Ward, those guys anyway. Just because we don't know who's going to make this team outside of Reagor, Smith, and Fulgham. And I'm not even going to give Fulgham that much credit right now. I don't want to say he's been good, but he hasn't been terrible, I guess. I mean, he should make this roster. Today was his best day of practice. I will say that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole, all these other guys are getting more reps is fine, but at the expense of your first-round pick losing his reps. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what's scary. And, you feel he needs more chemistry with Jalen Hurts. And that's what worries me the most. Even though they've had chemistry at Alabama, you want him to continue developing. You want him to continue growing. And, I mean, Devonta Smith's been beaten up pretty bad by Darius Slay and Steve Nelson these first couple practices. It's not a bad thing. It's just shows you the nature of the physicality of these practices. And, I mean, he got injured diving for a low throw, and he made the catch. I mean, that's Devonta Smith. He just happened to tweak something. And, sprained MCL, again, it's not serious. It just takes time to heal. And honestly, when I heard 2 to 3 weeks, I was kind of relieved there, because it's like, oh, okay. So 3 weeks from now, what's 3 weeks from now? August 23rd? Okay, you're done for 2 preseason games. He's probably not going to play a third anyway, but overall, Mike, you still got 6 weeks, and it looks like he'll be fully ready 100% for the opener.
I hope so. All right, what do we know about the left tackle spot between Jordan Mailata and Andre Dillard? Are we getting any read on that yet?
I'll tell you what, you read right into this. I kind of want to talk about this tonight. I don't know how much you follow racing. If you went by car lengths, Jordan Mailata has a 10 car length lead on Andre.
Wow.
he's that far ahead of him right now. He looks like the NFL polished, ready player, not the former first-round pick. And Jordan Mailata has been great this entire camp. And John McMullen told me this morning. Josh Sweat has been the best overall player in camp. He's been the most impressive, and Jordan Mailata has been handling him really well. And Andre Dillard, not so much. And Dillard just looks like there's some polishing to do there. It's not like he's been bad. It's just Jordan Mailata has been playing really well. And if the Eagles do the right thing here, Jordan Mailata should be the starting left tackle as of right now. But you know as well as I do, they are going to give a first-round pick they traded up for every opportunity to win this job.
The other day, I guess Nick Sirianni stopped practice, yelled details. He said that the defense was ahead of the offense. I want to ask you about where this defense is in terms of where do they think? You just mentioned Sweat might be the best player in camp so far. They brought Steven Nelson in here. They already had a pretty good, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Hargrave, Kerrigan's here. So how are they feeling about their defense?
Well, they're feeling really good about him. And Steven Nelson's been having a great camp as well. He's been all over the place. I know everybody likes to tweet about when he gets beat, but quarterbacks get beat. That's practice. I think that's more Jalen Hurts and his deep ball than anything else. But overall, I think the Eagles really like where this defense is going. And Nick Sirianni has given a lot of credit to Jonathan Cannon. And I got to be honest, Mike, through the first 4 practices, the defense won. Nick Sirianni preaches competition, and he keeps score. The defense won. I think today might have been the first day the offense actually beat the defense and, the shells and the shorts. But overall, this defense, it's gotten the better of the offense so far. And I don't know what to make of the offense yet. I think we got to wait till the pads come on. But this defense, I'll tell you what, they're physical. They're tenacious. They try to strip the football. Devonta Taylor's been really good as well. That's been a surprise. I didn't know what to make of him. And I got to be honest with you. If someone had told me the name, every linebacker on the Eagles roster, I would have named Devonta Taylor, but not right away. It probably would have been like 4th or 5th down the list. And now he's probably the first guy you mentioned just because he's been that good. They want not Eric Wilson, but like an Anthony Barr type pass rusher or athletic type of linebacker. They really value athleticism in this defense. Devonta Taylor has been that and more.
Yeah, it's funny. You wonder, to the point where they're going to trust him enough to have him out there in the 2 linebacker base defense.
I think he's going to get the opportunity. I really do. And especially with Alex Singleton missing a little bit early on in camp here, they basically said, hey, you know what? You're a high draft pick. Let's see what you got. And, whatever they taught him this summer has been working for him because maybe he hasn't had a lot of football under his belt, and now he does. Maybe it's like the Jordan Mailata route. The Eagles are taking chances on projects like this, and it looks like this is going to turn out really well for them. Devonta Taylor has been you can't even advertise him because there was no advertisement for him.
I think, Jeff, that people thought this was a wasted draft pick almost.
Yeah, people were calling him a bust.
Yeah, let me ask you this, okay? I'm glad we went down this road because I was talking about this earlier. People have ripped Roseman for poor draft picks. Is it poor draft picks, or did Peterson do a bad job of developing younger players?
I'm starting to think it's development. And, he did develop some nice players over the years, like Isaac Seumalo, for example. People thought he was a terrible pick once upon a time. Jeff Stoutland really did a good job with him. Jordan Mailata, look at that. Look at the years the Eagles only have 5 draft picks. Miles Sanders has turned out pretty good. Josh Sweat, Dallas Goedert, Avonte Maddox. These aren't Jordan Mailata. The Eagles haven't had a lot of draft picks in 2018 and 2019. And 2020, everybody goes, well, why did you reach for Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round? Well, no, you didn't reach for Jalen Hurts because after Jalen Hurts, Jacob Eason was probably the next best quarterback, and he went in the 4th round. So you kind of had to overreach if you wanted to get a guy like that. Devonta Taylor, the Eagles saw him, and you got to give him credit. Everybody's like, well, people have a 4th round grade on him, and not many people heard of him. Well, maybe the Eagles scouting department actually knows what they're doing. They just need an actual coaching staff to develop these guys.
Yeah, you look at a lot of the guys. They just, I thought Peterson did a really good job with the veteran players and won them a Super Bowl because he was a very good leader of the veterans. But the younger players have never come along. None of them really.
No. Who's been their best draft pick in the Pearson? Was it Carson? Has he been the best one? You really have to wonder about this because I think a lot. I really like the 18 draft class when they only have 5 guys. And the 19 draft class, I was like, okay, And that was the Dillard Sanders class. And I like Dillard. I like Sanders. After that, I was like, yeah, okay. Like Josh Sweat I liked, but Clayton Dorsett was terrible. He was basically out of the league in 2 weeks. That's how bad he was. And then 2020, we just didn't get a good grasp on because that was a wasted year anyway. So you really have to start thinking to yourself, hey, you know what? Maybe Howie does know what he's doing. It's just you need the right people in there. Maybe that's why they brought in Nick Sirianni to help coach younger players.
Well, I think that Roseman indicated that a little bit when he was talking about the receivers, and he said, well, we're just excited to see how these receivers do with the new coaching staff. In other words, I don't know. What are we hearing about J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and where he is in this camp?
He's bad. I don't know what to tell you, Mike. I try to put a positive spin on that guy.
No, you don't look if he just you don't hit all the draft picks. But my point is, I think he was indicating like, hey, we feel like we've taken the right guys. They weren't developed correctly. Now, maybe J.J. was the wrong guy. Jalen Reagor, what about him? Was he not used correctly last year, or was he a missed pick? I don't know. Like we don't know where either of those two guys will fit in with this team.
And you pointed out earlier with Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor was snake bit by the injury bug. Remember, he had the thumb injury, second game of the year. He started out pretty good. One catch for 55 yards and was getting open. And he had the thumb injury, and he didn't really do anything until that Dallas game. When he came back, he caught the touchdown. And then he was a lot better when Jalen Hurts was his quarterback because Hurts bought some time and was able to hit him down the field. And I will say this about Jalen Reagor. I mean, I think the kid has a lot of potential, but there's so much pressure on him to make this Eagles wide receiver group competent because they really don't have anybody outside Devonta Smith. I mean, Zach Ertz is probably, if you want to go by wide receivers, he probably would be their second best wide receiver on the team right now if he played that position. There's a lot of pressure on Reagor and there's a lot of pressure on Fulgham to be competent players.
What do we hear about Quez Watkins, John Hightower, those guys?
Well, I don't have high expectations for them just because they're low-round draft picks and you get what you get out of them. But Quez Watkins, to me, has been a pleasant surprise this camp ever since he got back from the non-COVID illness. And he stepped up today. He had a couple nice catches there. And, I think he's going to be a guy you can really use as like a wide receiver 3, a wide receiver 4 if it comes to that. I mean, I feel like he has a unique skill set for this offense. John Hightower, to me, he's just a speedster. He's a deep threat. I think there's room for him on a roster. I don't think Eagles are ready to give up on him yet. He's just one of those guys where I say to myself, you can't expect much out of the guy. I mean, he was a 5th-round pick. He's a burner, and, hopefully we can use Jalen Hurts' arm strength to pretty much utilize his game because I don't know what happened to him, but the Eagles seem to abandon him after that Pittsburgh game last year.
Let me ask you about, we talked Wentz. There's some Foles talk, but would Nick Mullins be someone that Howie can spin off and get more picks from Indianapolis?
Now, I look at it this way. I think the Eagles like having 3 quarterbacks. Yeah,
but they like having 3 quarterbacks for this situation.
That's true, but what happens with the COVID situation? We don't know if these guys are vaccinated or not. Well, we know Jalen Hurts is. I will say that. But you got to look at it this way, Mike. Do you really want to give up Nick Mullins unless you're going to get good compensation for him? I'm not talking like a 6th-round pick. I know that's probably what he's worth. If the Colts offer the 4th, I do it. But the Colts don't like to trade their draft assets away because they do really well in the draft. I think, and here's the other thing people forget. You can keep a guy like Nick Mullins on your 53-man roster. You don't have to play him because 7 guys have to be inactive anyway. So there's a reason to keep this guy around.
Oh, listen, it's a nice added value to have on your roster. But a lot of what the Eagles do is, for this moment, is when someone is in a spot of weakness, we can go after them because we have a position of strength. It's the whole idea of why they drafted Jalen Hurts in the first place.
Yep. And assets. That's one thing the Eagles – that's where I agree with you, Mike. I mean, if the Eagles get a deal, they'll do it. But I don't know. I kind of like the 3 quarterback situation they got right now. I love the depth they have at that position. It truly is a quarterback factory right now.
Oh, boy, don't say that. All right, Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. And I guess, the 2 guys I mentioned, too, were, Minshew, I guess, but you're going to trade inside the division? Probably not. So and Nick Foles, obviously. Mariota might be another guy.
Yeah, he was a guy I thought about thinking of mentioning on Friday when I was doing my Wentz piece, and I said, you know what? John Gruden really likes him. And, if Derek Carr ever would get hurt, Marcus Mariota can fill in for him. And he did do that last year. So the Raiders clearly value him. So.
Yeah. Oh, you could. I mean, you got the Denver situation, maybe the loser of that. You've got, what about Garoppolo?
Hey, I will say this. I don't know if you read Peter King's column this morning, and Kyle Shanahan backed this up. The only way Trey Lance is really being out Jimmy Garoppolo is if Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt. That's pretty much what he said to them. When Jimmy Garoppolo is on top of his game, no one's beating him. And Kyle Shanahan's in love with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they drafted Trey Lance for after this year. I don't really think Trey Lance is going to play that much this year. And Shanahan's been doubling down and tripling down on Garoppolo. I think Garoppolo is going to be the starter the whole year.
What are we hearing about where Tebow is in his chances of making that team?
Yeah, I talked about him over the weekend, and Urban Meyer loves his pass-catching ability, but he said there's stuff like, tight end stuff, like holding on to the football, fighting for the football. He just hasn't grasped that yet, and why would you expect that? He's a new tight end. It's a shame, guys like Trey Burton can't get a job, but, Tim Tebow has one. But I digress. But overall, I still think he has a good chance to make the roster just because there really isn't that much out there. It's like Chris Manhertz, what's the kid's name? The kid from Ohio State. I always forget his name. I think they're going to be on the roster, but Tim Tebow and James O'Shaughnessy, I can never pronounce this. They say O'Shaughnessy. I think that's how you say it. I think they'll be bound for a roster spot. And you got to be honest, Mike, they could take 4 tight ends on the roster because Tim Tebow can throw, he can run. There's a lot of stuff you could do with him. So I think that unique skill set gives Tim Tebow a chance.
All right, Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, at Jeff Kerr, CBS, and, of course, all the Eagles coverage this year over at 97.3 ESPN.com. They open up the preseason next Thursday, a week from Thursday. They are taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you can hear the game live right here on 97.3 ESPN. All the Eagles news right here with Jeff back on Wednesday here on the Sports Bash. All right, Jeff, take care, man.
Yeah, sounds great, Mike. I'm going to be like a kid on Christmas morning come that first preseason game. When I walk into Lincoln Financial Field.
Thursday night.
Let's go.
Yeah, for that game. I'm saying Thursday night, live football is back.
I can't wait, man. It's here. We are 41 days away from the start of the season.
Ooh, Hall of Fame game Thursday night, and of course, Eagles and Pittsburgh on the 12th. Jeff Kerr, thanks, man.
Yep, sounds great. Thanks, Mike.